order the May 23rd Parker Town Council special meeting at 5:01 p.m. All council members are present. Let me turn on my microphone. All council members are present with the exception of Councilwoman Renee Williams. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So first item we have on our agenda, and I'm going to apologize, I left my reading glasses in the car, so I'm going to do my best. Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
It's good.
Oh, right, good. He's not as blind as I thought. All right, good. All right, so first item we have up is item number 3. This is ordinance number 1.533 on second reading. This is a bill for an ordinance authorizing a lease purchase transaction and in connection therewith authorizing the leasing of certain town property and the execution and delivery by the town of a site lease, a lease purchase agreement, an escrow agreement, and other financing documents in connection therewith. And now, Mary Lou, you're going to rock and roll with us, right?
I'm going to rock and roll. First of all, Mayor and Council, thank you so much for coming out on a special night. Appreciate you being here to help us stick with our schedule for this very exciting topic. So, first of all, let's get some background in place. We had a study session on May 13th to discuss the process and impacts of refunding these COPs. This was followed up by the approval of the ordinance during its first reading on Monday, May 20th, and tonight is the second reading and opportunity for council to take final action. At the study session, the transaction was described as being similar to a home mortgage refinancing with a few twists. The ultimate goal in doing this refunding is to reduce the town's principal and interest payment, maintain the existing maturity date of November 1st, 2035, which several of you mentioned was very important to you, and also release the Pay Center as security for the new 2019 COPs. The ordinance in front of you this evening is authorizing a lease purchase transaction, the leasing of the police department building, and the execution of a site lease, a lease purchase agreement, and an escrow agreement. In addition, the ordinance sets certain parameters in which you are delegating town staff to operate within while consummating the transaction. So, these COPs, which stand for Certificate of Purchase, were issued originally in 2009 in the amount of $44,250,000. The proceeds were used to build a new police station and the Pay Center. Both buildings were utilized as security for the 2009 COPs. We are now 10 years into this transaction, and we will reach a point on November 1st, 2019, when the remaining COPs are subject to redemption at the option of the town. So this is really the first opportunity that we have to address the refunding of this, of these remaining COPs. We have 5 reasons for why we think this is a great option for the town, and I want to go through those to make sure that you all are aware of them and also the public watching. So our interest expense is going to go down, and it's going to go down for 2 reasons. The first is the current market environment. The average interest rate on the remaining 2009 COPs is in excess of 4%. We expect to issue the new COPs at a rate under 3%. The second way we're going to save interest expense is through the reduction of the amount of principal repayment obligation. So we're going to use unencumbered town reserves of $4 million and the release of the $3.48 million reserve required to be held by the trustee on the 2009 COPs. The general fund cash reserve is in excess of the council mandated level of 25% of total general fund expenditures, and that cash balance is only available to be utilized for one-time items. This is a perfect one-time item from our perspective, and it will help us drive more annual savings that can be prioritized to other town needs within the general fund. The interest and principal payments will be reduced from approximately $2.9 million to no more than $2.25 million. The term of the repayment obligation will remain November 1, 2035, the same as it is now. With the reduced principal balance, the town is able to release the Pace Center as security for the 2019 COPs, and this could give us future flexibility. Overall, this is a great opportunity for the town to redirect cost savings from interest and principal payments to other high-priority general fund projects and expenses. Now, we have probably more attorneys in the room tonight than we ever do, so I want to...
Is that why I feel so uncomfortable tonight?
Yes, we're all having to mind our P's and Q's. So we have several people here. At the study session, you met Jim Manier, who is the Director of Hilltop Securities and serves as the town's financial advisor. Lauren Hartman, who is the Managing Director at RBC, which is the underwriting firm that we're going to use. At the study session, you met Nate Eckloff. And then Kim Crawford, who is an attorney with Butler Snow, the town's legal counsel for the transaction. And then we have our normal town attorneys. And another one back there who says he doesn't want anything to do with this topic.
Thank goodness.
With that, Mayor and Council will take any questions, and the experts in the room will help out.
Thank you very much, Mary Lou. Council, do you have any questions for Mary Lou? Josh?
So just real quick, I'm going to ask the devil's advocate question here. Why would we pay off the Pace Center and not the PD?
So we are not really paying off the Pace Center. It's just that the principal amount is being reduced enough that we only need to have one building serving as collateral. We are using the police department building because it is considered more essential to the town. From an investor's perspective, that's a good thing. An investor wants to know that the town is putting up something that is very meaningful and a building that it needs to have in place, because that means we will be more likely to allocate the cash to pay those dollar amounts.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, your redemption period, if I understood it correctly, was in November of 2019, correct? That was your first redemption period?
The first redemption period is actually those bonds maturing after or beginning on November 1, 2020.
Okay, so
So we will be paying our November 1st debt as part of this transaction.
and we're doing that early for what reason?
It won't be early. It's all part of the overall transaction. So there are, as we do this, I'm going to say there are probably 10 or 12 different categories of expenses that will be pluses and minuses as we work through this. I'm going to turn around to Jim. Do you want to add anything to that?
Sir, perhaps.
Just
Thanks,
real quick,
Mary Lou.
name and address
Yes,
for the record.
Jim Manier with Hilltop Securities. We are engaged as municipal advisor to the town for the transaction. We'll be closing in June. The proceeds will be reinvested until November 1. Essentially, will carry itself through the reinvestment, and then the redemption will occur on November 1. The reason why we're doing it now is the market is so good. So we really are trying to get into the market before interest rates perhaps getting higher.
And we're
Okay.
not penalized for doing it earlier.
Thank you. Correct. We'll be able to do it at face value and pay them off at face value on November 1.
Yeah, I had earlier, discussions about the stock market, but I hadn't gotten the November redemption period, so I was wondering why that gap was really there.
Okay. Other questions? John, or Jeff, did you have one? Sorry.
So, Mary Lou, first of all, thank you for meeting with myself and Council Member Pogue last week to clarify this. But can you go walk back through the importance of why we would spend $4 million out of the general fund out of non-encumbered savings to pay for this and what that frees up, what that benefits us to do?
Sure. So what the four of us, because Rhonda was there, also talked about is the fact that as the cash balance in the general fund builds up, and actually this is true with any of our funds, we are really limited to using that cash for one-time items. If you think about it, we have that cash there once. It's not there year after year after year, so we don't want to use it for operating purposes. So this is a perfect one-use example of using that money. One of the things that we did talk about during our meeting is the fact that as elected officials, you want to see that cash balance kind of stay in that sweet spot. You've identified that you want us to maintain at least 25% of our total general fund expenses. But from a constituent perspective, you also don't want to see that number grow to be $50 or $75 million, because then that means that the town is bringing in more tax revenue than what it's spending and would appear to need.
Great. So then this, in effect, and we talked about a number, so we don't have to talk about that number, but what it does is it frees up general fund monies so we can spend it, and especially when we're in a flatline revenue situation, that really benefits the town for this year and
I'm getting
upcoming
to
years.
the point in my forecast for revenue of this year that I'm thinking this source of savings is probably the largest source of revenue for our 2020 budget.
Good deal, good deal.
Okay. John?
Yeah, Mary Lou, you talked about this is for one-time expenses. For people who peruse our budget, there are a lot of one-time expenses such as roads and other capital improvements. What steps did you take to make sure that those capital improvements sort of could not be accelerated, or are we in a position to still be okay if there's a little bit of a downturn? Could you sort of elaborate on that?
Sure. Right now with the adjusted budget that we have in place, we're looking, even with using this $4 million, at being, I believe it was around 27%. Our cash reserves will be 27% of our total general fund expense. What John is referring to, I believe, is the fact that the majority of our transportation projects actually are housed in a different fund, a fund separate from our general fund. It's what we refer to as our public improvements fund. That fund actually is very healthy. It's carrying about a $14 million balance right now, and it brings in revenue of between $13 and $14 million on an annual basis. If we have some very large transportation projects come forward with some funding that is available from other agencies, which is what we're hoping is going to happen, we are sitting in a very good place to still be able to meet any requirements that we may have there.
Okay. Other questions?
I would just like to say thank you for all your efforts on this.
Thank you. It's been a group project, as you can tell.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment at 5:14 PM if there's anyone here to address council on this item. And seeing no movement, we'll close public comment at 5:14, and I would entertain further discussion, or in just a sec, there will be a little button popping up on your screen to vote. Or I'll need a motion to vote.
I'll
excuse
move
me.
to approve ordinance number 1.533 on second reading.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Cheryl and a second from Jeff. In just a sec, you're gonna get your little button. Maybe.
It worked faster
There it
when
is.
John was saying it.
Yeah, I just said the same thing.
And they were in color too and
Yeah.
everything.
I'm getting presented with a vote.
Can't see.
No, it's giving me a vote. I shouldn't be voting on it.
It's because Pro Tem was there.
All right, motion passes unanimously. With no further business before council, we will recess and then reconvene in our exec session in just a few minutes. Thank you guys very much.